KC Laboratory. Sponsored by Emprise Bank.
It's a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank. An Emprise Bank debit card is good anywhere. You have access to 55,000 fee-free ATMs worldwide through the Allpoint ATM network. You can get the same kind of access to your money as any bank across the country while getting the value of working with a trusted partner in Emprise. Emprise Bank, member FDIC. They're a trusted partner of the KCSN Draft Guide, trusted partner of KC Sports Network. They are absolutely fantastic. I love doing business with them. Check them out if you haven't had a chance. And check out these two guys I'm sitting here with. First, find them on Twitter at Maddie_KCSN. Hi, Maddie.
I can't, you guys. I'm excited. After all weekend of the Chiefs being rumored to be in on all these cornerbacks and having Arden Key in for a visit, they made zero moves the rest of the weekend after signing Ronald Jones. So, you came into the weekend hot with rumors of swirling about the Chiefs, and then they kind of stalled out. So, Craig, I'm going to ask you, with that kind of momentum building through the weekend and coming to a halt today, do the Chiefs sign Stephon Gilmore or trade for James Bradberry?
I think they're going to sign Stephon Gilmore. I think the longer this goes, the narrower his market gets. And eventually he's going to want a team to play on, preferably before the draft, so he doesn't lose like all of his leverage. So I think it'll be Gilmore. I just think that based on what we're hearing about the asking price for Bradberry, like somebody's going to bid higher than the Chiefs, because the Chiefs don't have fifth or sixth rounders, and I don't think they want to come off of either fourth.
Oh, please sign Stephon Gilmore. That's the one I want. I would prefer Stephon Gilmore over James Bradberry, but we know how that's going to go probably. All right, so we kind of got a fun little exercise today. We're going to do a round one mock draft, and then we're going to finish out the rest of the Chiefs picks in this draft. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the wonderful people at the Draft Network's mock draft simulator. We're going to kind of let picks run. We're going to go 5 at a time. We'll kind of look at how the board's playing out after every 5 picks, give us some reactions on some things. Algorithms are wonky sometimes, so maybe Daxton Hill winds up in the top 5 like we just saw when we were messing around with it a little bit earlier. But we'll react to what we see. We'll talk a little bit about how it would affect the Chiefs, because here's the deal. The Chiefs, I don't know if you heard this, they got a lot of draft capital for Tyreek Hill last week. And this has become an increasingly more interesting draft for the Chiefs, for Brett Veach, a crucial draft for the Chiefs and for Brett Veach. And we're going to play around with a bunch of scenarios, because a ton of scenarios have been presented to this, to all of us as fans to kind of consume, because 2 first-round picks can get you up pretty high if you so choose. So, Maddie, you have the floor. You're going to begin running this with this exercise here. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess we're going to take the guy that has the best internet and let him run the mock draft simulator on the live show.
Yeah, you got to flex out that new internet, ability real quick here. We're going to find out.
Okay, so we got 6 picks instead of 5 in this first round, but that's okay. So we start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end out of Michigan. Kyle Hamilton, despite running in the 4.7s at his pro day, apparently, for a safety from Notre Dame, is going number 2 overall to the Detroit Lions. That sounds good. Houston Texans with a shocker. Derek Stingley Jr., cornerback out of LSU, up at number 3. I guess old Lovey feels pretty good about that foot injury that he's been dealing with. Evan Neal, offensive tackle from Alabama, goes to the Jets at 4. Ike Ekwonu, offensive tackle, guard, whatever you want to play him at, from NC State, going to the Giants. And then, like I said, I did not 6. So the Panthers, with QB1 Malik Willis, according to most people on the board, does not take him. They go with Charles Cross, offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. And I'll let you guys run, because, I've been talking this whole time now, but this is a pretty good top 6 picks if you're the Chiefs right now. I mean, not a lot of guys that you are considering taking here are off the board, right?
Oh, yeah. The defensive ends didn't fly off the board in this scenario. Walker's still there. Thibodeau's still there. Obviously, Jermaine Johnson is still there. That's a positive thing. I mean, I think everybody expects that, you've got Derek Stingley coming off the board. I think everybody expects that he's going to be gone before the Chiefs can reasonably trade up. So that's an okay one to sacrifice. So, yeah, it is a good board so far for the Chiefs.
And I would say it sounds a little bit counterintuitive at cornerback, but you kind of want the run on cornerbacks to start early, probably. I think if you're the Chiefs, because I don't think we're all targeting cornerbacks. So I don't know if we're trading up for any of them. So you're kind of hoping to hit day 2 value. I'm guessing. So you got to sacrifice something. There's no edges off the board yet. The receiver run hasn't started, so there's good value that could potentially fall. So yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Well, and then just some other stuff, you still have the top quarterback, and Malik Willis is still there. So, like, if you're the Chiefs, you want as many quarterbacks to go as possible. So if he's off the board, at 8 to the Panthers or 6 to the Panthers, that's obviously the best case scenario. But you're hoping he comes off the board still. Like you guys said, starting that corner run earlier rather than later. I'd rather the corners to run out at pick 15 than at pick 25, because I don't think Brett Veach is really looking to trade up for a corner. So yeah, get them off the board, get it started. Same with tackle. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be trying to get a tackle, so get them all off the board. So unless anybody has anything else, we're running out the next 4 or 5 picks here.
Yeah, let's do it.
As we go through, you need to give me music next time. All right, we got 6 again, so we're doing 6 at a time. All right, this group not as good for the Chiefs. The New York Giants come back after Icky and go with Kayvon Thibodeau, edge out of Oregon. That one hurts the soul. Falcons immediately, Travon Walker, edge out of Georgia, going to the Falcons. Seattle, Malik Willis, quarterback, trying to add a Liberty, trying to replace Russell Wilson. Jets, Ahmad Sauce Gardner at pick 10 to the Jets, corner out of Cincy. And finally, Jameson Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama, going to the Washington football team / Commanders. Not as good of a group coming off the board here. This one hurts the Chiefs, prospect a little bit.
Yeah,
okay,
a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Kit. You nail this. Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's interesting to me is so this is where I think things start getting interesting for the Chiefs. This 12-ish range is about, actually a little bit before 12 is about where 29 and 30, can get you up into that round run, that trade up range. So I'm very interested kind of in that. Like, this is the first thing you guys need to know. 29 and 30 can get you about into the top 10, maybe 9. So that's an important kind of nugget here. Like the top 10, I think you're probably pretty safe to say the Chiefs probably won't pick top 10, but 11 on, you better be by your phone, you better be by your TV on draft night. And I think the interesting is in how 10 falls could really tell you a lot about what the Chiefs wind up doing, because I'm looking here, Maddie, we're on pick 13. I haven't heard Jermaine Johnson's name, the edge out of Florida State's name, called yet.
This is correct. We are actually on pick 12 at the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock, and Jermaine Johnson has not come off the board yet. I would assume the Vikings are not taking Jermaine Johnson after their defensive end moves that it sounds like they've made. But yeah, this is about as far up as I would anticipate the Chiefs really being willing to go, and I honestly think they would want it to be even a little bit later than this. So having only one defensive end left, I would say, is less than ideal.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
You know the trade up scenario to about 15 though, right, Craig?
Oh yeah, I got them written down. Yeah.
Okay, go for it then.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll start with 9 here. I think while we're talking about 9, if you package 29 and 30 together, you can get up roughly to 9. So the players that I'm looking for within these groups that we've drafted, if Malik Willis goes before then, Seattle has little reason to stay in the top 10 there, unless they're really, trying to target a defensive player or something like that. Or Seattle may want, think about it this way. Yeah. The rest of the quarterbacks pretty universally are going to be, you may have a Desmond Ridder or a Kenny Pickett at pick 29 or 30. So the Seattle Seahawks may look at this and say, hey, listen, if we're missing out on Malik Willis here at the beginning of the draft, we are comfortable trading back with the Chiefs, getting 29 and 30, trying to take our quarterback of the future there and get another player. And the Chiefs, if, let's say, Malik Willis goes before this, in this scenario, a guy like Travon Walker would be there. And the Chiefs looking at that is going, hey, the ceiling on him is crazy high. Let's go up and get that guy, get a premier pass rusher at that point. That's kind of the spot that I'm looking for at pick 9. And it really, Malik Willis is the hinge point in that one. So I'm if he goes a little bit higher, like maybe the Giants, maybe the Panthers. I mean, there are reasonable Yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
The Panthers are the team to watch at quarterback. I think they've kind of struck out in a lot of different ways. I think they're the one to keep an eye on for Malik Willis.
Yeah.
So I guess, Maddie, here's my proposal for you. I want us to pause at pick 14. Can you pause it at pick 14?
You're putting a lot of pressure on me, but we can attempt to do this.
We're all agreeing that we're gonna ride it out and see if we can use pick 29 and 50 and package them to pick 15.
Well, I
that
have
sound
news for you. I have paused it after pick 14. So let me read off the 3 players that have gone since we have last discussed. Andrew Booth Jr. to the Minnesota Vikings. Jermaine Johnson, edge out of Florida State, to the Houston Texans.
Oh, no.
And finally, Big Jordan Davis, nose tackle to the Baltimore Ravens, of course.
Oh, staying put. I'm staying put.
So, okay, so this is what I want to talk about before we did this. This is what I did want to talk about. Jamison Williams came off the board at 11. This is the start of where if you're going to get a run of wide receivers. Now, I'm not sure you get runs on wide receivers in this group. I think they might just be sprinkled in throughout the whole thing because teams are going to only be really willing to draft their top guy. But if there is going to be a run, it's going to start now. Where do you guys stand on trading for a wide receiver to specifically replace Tyreek Hill? Because that is all of the rage in everybody's mock draft. Every national media person is pounding the table. The Chiefs have to trade up, and it has to be for a receiver.
I mean, if I'm looking at this right now, the top consensus receiver, for everybody else would be Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave's there, Drake London is there. Those are all guys that would definitely help the Chiefs, unquestionably. I also don't think that they're going to be in such dire straits at pick 29 or 30 with the way that this board has gone right now with the receivers off the board. I would stay put. Like, at the point that it was, if a lot of receivers had come off the board, maybe you think about it to try and grab the bottom of that tier. But since there's so many left at that spot, I'm staying put. I'm not going up to get a wide receiver.
I flip-flopped a lot from last week, and I mean, these guys can attest to it because I was all over the place. I think there was at one point I was just staunchly against it, and you guys were starting to talk yourselves into it a little bit. But I was kind of a proponent of like small trade ups in first round twice, so maybe like a 15 and a 23 at one point. I think I'm just sitting. If my intent is receiver, I think I'm just sitting. I think I'm going to see what happens and what falls to me at 30. I might be aggressive if something falls to try to get up to 15 for an edge. Maybe one of these corners, maybe. That's it. Those are the 2 positions, cornerback and edge. Yeah. And it's a heavy lean on edge. So
I think I'd trade up for a corner either. I think corner's a little too volatile going from college to the NFL. That would be my one concern. It's just
Okay.
Craig.
Okay.
Come on, Craig.
No, you're fair. No, that's a very valid criticism. We have seen a number of guys that have come out of the draft that it just doesn't translate. It's one of those positions that it either translates quickly or it tends to not translate at all. And so it is very volatile. I totally agree, Matty.
And especially this year when you're not going to get athletic testing on Booth or Stingley. And I mean, Sauce has no reason to do anything else. So you're not getting that full physical profile. So like that holds me up. Before we continue with this, I did want to say we got those 3 offensive tackles on picks 4, 5, 6 in a row. Not a single offensive lineman since. You were really hoping that a team was, it's a simulator, so it's never going to be perfect, but you were hoping for a team to reach for a Trevor Penning by now. You were hoping for these teams to start to look at these other offensive tackles because the run started early, but we will see what happens on now. I'm going to do 5 picks unless you want to.
Before we jump off of this, I continuously hear that Chiefs trade up to 15 or 16 because the Eagles may say, "Hey, we're not letting you jump in front of us. We won't take your guy. You can sit back at 16." You're seeing what happens. We've heard, "Oh yeah, just wait. Just one of those defensive ends will be there, or one of the corners will be there." They're not. They're gone. They're just completely gone. And this is not a horrifically unreasonable board that has come off of here. So.
Well,
that
and
9 trade up may end up being something that seems a lot more appealing because this can happen on the board very easily.
You're having to surrender both first round picks to make that happen. David Ojabo throws a wrench in some things.
He does.
Because
we will get there as he comes.
I know. You're gonna want to talk about Ojabo. I'm sure at 29, but I know you too well. But Ojabo is interesting because he's not entirely a Spags edge. right? I mean, you would say the other four, the Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Jermaine Johnson, Trevon Walker are better Spags fits than David Ojabo? Yes? No?
He's technically the same as Jermaine Johnson because he lost weight for the combine. So, like, if you're doing it that way, they check out the same. But yeah, Jermaine Johnson plays a lot bigger, stronger. I assume his playing weight's higher. So, yes.
Better against the run.
Of those five, Ojabo is the least Spagsy of the group. Yes.
So, and this is kind of where I was saying, maybe you can grab one of the guys, specifically Jermaine Johnson. That's the guy I'm always going to have my eye on. I think he's the most realistic, even though I think the league might wind up loving him. I think you sacrifice Ojabo to get someone a little bit more Spagsy out of Jermaine Johnson, but now Ojabo can't be sacrificed in that top 15. And so that's where things get a little interesting and dicey for me with the edge position. Sorry.
No, more dicey trade talk before we go. Here's another fun bit from picks. We'll say even 14. So 14's the Ravens, and they need a wide receiver still. They need an edge still, and they're an AFC team trying to win the Super Bowl. Then you go to the Eagles for picks 15, 16, and 19. Guess what some of the Eagles listed needs are? Edge, wide receiver, cornerback, and then quarterback. And then pick 17, Chargers, they ain't going to trade with you. And pick 18, you got the Saints. There's the first team that you might be able to say, oh, they might want to trade out with you. But guess what they need at wide receiver? A bunch of speed. So your trade options from pick 14 to pick 19 aren't exactly great. Like that's not, no, I don't know. I'm not saying the Ravens wouldn't trade with the Chiefs. I'm not saying the Eagles wouldn't trade from a defensive end, but we're talking Jermaine Johnson. He's sitting there at 15. How giddy are the Eagles to trade out of that pick instead of taking Jermaine Johnson? And the same thing with the Ravens at 14. So it might be kind of hard to find a trade partner for these positions, these high valued positions that we think the Chiefs want.
Yep. All right. Let's get simulating. Let's move on.
I'm trying. This thing goes fast sometimes. Okay. All right. So speaking of those Eagles, they take wide receiver out of Ohio State, Garrett Wilson at pick 15. Then they go to the defensive side of the ball for Trent McDuffie, cornerback out of Washington. Little armed guy. I actually think the Eagles are probably a team that are okay with that. The Chargers do not get Jordan Davis to play nose tackle, so they go next door and get Devontae Wyatt to play defensive tackle for them. So that's Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. Saints do go wide receiver, Drake London out of USC. Eagles round out their third pick with Zion Johnson, interior offensive lineman from Boston College. And then the Steelers, who we had to be hoping were taking Kenny Pickett. We hope they take Kenny Pickett for the Chiefs' hopes. They don't. They take Trevor Penning, offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. So not bad. That's not a bad.
You can live with.
That's a fine pick for that. But having the two wide receivers come off the board and another corner, probably not ideal. But you got two offensive linemen and then a D tackle in that group. So you have to feel pretty good about the other three if you're a Chiefs fan.
Now, that being said, one of those corners is Trent McDuffie, a guy that Steve Spagnuolo, I would be shocked, unless he's playing him in the slot, I would be shocked. Just, really short arms. So that's something that I think that Spags tends to like, longer arm guys. So you don't feel too bad about missing that. But yeah, it's the two wide receivers. It's missing Garrett Wilson, missing Drake London. Obviously not a huge run on them. You can sacrifice, the offensive tackle, the interior offensive lineman. Overall, pretty good so far. Kent, do you have any further comments beyond this?
Yes.
Okay,
I do have one more comment. We just heard another interior defensive lineman come off the board, and I don't think the guy that I'm about to talk about, John Ridgway out of Arkansas, is going to go round one. But you know what, Maddie? I bet he sticks.
Listen, if you're sitting there in the draft and you want Jordan Davis in the first round, your team doesn't get him, don't worry. You can wait around and grab a John Ridgway on day 3 because here's a guy's going to step in and do a lot of the same stuff. He's going to sit in the middle of your defense. He's going to hold up against double teams. He's going to eat space. He's going to stop the run. But if the offense happens to throw the ball, he's got enough upfield juice to matter. You can't just leave him out there and expect an undersized center to hold them up. No, he's going to push that guy back into the quarterback, create a little pass rush. So if you're missing out on your favorite nose tackle in round 1, John Ridgway out of Arkansas, he's going to be there ready to stick on day 3.
Yeah, he started at Illinois State, spent a year at Arkansas, had a lot of success. He's had a very good pre-draft process, an interior defensive lineman out of Arkansas, John Ridgway. I bet he sticks. And if you are looking for some golf clubs, you should check out Sticks Golf Clubs. They are an outstanding set. If you're like me, somebody that kind of fell in love with golf over the last couple of years during the pandemic, I needed something a little bit better than the cheap set I got on Amazon. I found something way better. This is an outstanding performing club. and it's really well priced. It's the best value in golf. Go to Stix.golf, Stix, STIX.golf. Use promo code KCSN10, gets you 10% off your order of clubs. I know some people have already taken advantage of that, and they have loved them. So make sure you check them out. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else. I don't, I think there's I do agree with you guys. I almost think at some point there's a breaking point where it's either you kind of go all in, you either go all in to go, grab pick 15, pick 10. Those are the two sweet spots for a trade up. I'd kind of be surprised for a small trade up, honestly, because the edges. I mean, I think you're just kind of letting it ride and see what value falls on the board to you at 29 and 30 with this scenario. I think, Maddie, we can keep going unless you have something else.
When you go, I want you to stop at 24. That would be pick 29 and 94.
Okay.
The Chiefs' third rounder there would get you up into the mid to low 20s there. Let's see what the board.
So this is perfect because I wanted to ask before I started, actually. I wanted to read off some of the top names still left on the board and see where you guys were starting to think about wanting to come up for a smaller trade. Because for a smaller trade, the only person I think I'm interested in is Jamison Williams, who went way off the board way before. But if you're sitting here at this range and you want to trade up for Jamison Williams, I'd be on board. But so here's some names. Kenny Pickett, Chiefs don't care about. Daxton Hill, Tyler Linderbaum, George Karlaftis, Jahan Dotson, Chris Olave, Kaiir Elam. That's kind of like the top guys on the board that maybe matter to the Chiefs. Those are the guys. Like any of those players that you don't want to trade up for, like a Pickett, a Linderbaum, Kenyon Green's in there. If you're the Chiefs, you want them off the board in these next couple picks, and then you can you don't have to worry as much about trading up. So let me see if I can stop this at 24. Let's try.
No whammies.
Okay, we got pick 24 in. So the Buffalo Bills are on the clock at pick 25. Off the board was Daxton Hill, safety out of Michigan.
Gosh,
Green Bay coming in with Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle out of Oklahoma.
There's the surprise.
Cardinals,
hey, you never know.
Cardinals trying to get J.J. Watt 2.0, drafting George Karlaftis, edge out of Purdue. And then the Cowboys with Tyler Linderbaum, interior offensive lineman out of Iowa. So that's a good little run. Kenny Pickett still on the board. That's not so fun. But you got a safety and defensive tackle. As a collective, threesome here is least favorite edge and Karlaftis and Tyler Linderbaum. Like, that's a really good couple picks off the board.
Okay,
it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying Dallas would be pick 24, right? That was the team you're kind of looking to trade up with.
Correct.
You're probably not
Buffalo ain't trading with us.
Yeah,
ain't
it's
doing you
difficult.
So I just want to present this scenario to you all, because I want your reaction. We know where the edges are falling on this board. We know where the edges fell. And let's just say it comes draft day and the Chiefs surrender pick 29 and 94 to go up with Dallas. And
that would actually be, I was wrong. That would be 103 to get up to Dallas. There's your equivalent value. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holes comp.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Or you could probably do like 30 and you could do 30 and 94 would be exact.
Yeah.
Same thing. The same kind of scenarios. Whatever the math works out, Chiefs trade up to pick 24, and they take George Karlaftis. How do you feel, Matthew?
Like the Chiefs just traded up for Breeland Speaks again? Same player? No, it's not that bad. I have a Karlaftis take, and I'm disappointed that he actually went off the board. Here's my thing. If the Chiefs were to take George Karlaftis, I would understand because he's going to be very spagsy. I mean, I think his arms are just a tad short, but generally speaking, he's pretty spagsy. He's ready to play on day one. Like, he has enough physicality. Like, he's a prototype of a guy that can step in on day one and play and eat snaps. So I get it. The thing with if the Chiefs drafted Karlaftis, though, it would be, for me, 100% contingent on also drafting David Ojabo. And I would take them back to back. I would pick both of them at 29-30, and I would fully get it because you have opposite guys, opposing defensive ends, different styles. One's ready right away. One has the high upside. That's the only way I ever feel good about Karlaftis coming to the Chiefs. Because if not, I think you just got a pretty stiff guy that isn't as good versus the run, and his body frame suggests it should be.
Yeah, the juice ain't there. I mean, it just he doesn't have the same rush juice. He's a very technical player. He's a good to fine player, and the Chiefs have gotten by with good to fine defensive end play for a while now. Yeah, he's going to be a big body. Yeah, you're going to be able to teach him how to defend the run a little bit better than he does. But you're never going to have the huge burst. You're never going to have the ability to really bend around the edge and get some of these elite, quick pass rush wins. And I think that we've seen under Steve Spagnuolo, which again, Maddie's right. He makes perfect sense. He plays the way a Spags edge you would expect a Spags edge to play. But we've seen these Spags edges not be able to get quick pressure, not be able to really translate and be a force off of the edge. Too often here, we're spending assets, money on guys that don't win quickly. They're smart guys. They're technical guys. Not saying they're bad investments. I'm with Matty. You get Ojabo with him. Hey, I'm on board because now he's your solid floor and Ojabo's your ceiling. But him alone, yikes, especially in a trade up. I'm just not a giant fan of that.
Well, and I am that is one of those, I don't want to say doomsday. That's not fair.
No.
That is one of those scenarios that is very realistic in my opinion that I would not love. Because you talk about, I mean, the Chiefs have done this before. They have traded up for, they've traded up for an edge, an unexciting edge, a lot of projections, some deficiencies that make you wonder if it's going to work. Sound familiar? But I'm not going to comp him because he will have a better career than Breland Speaks.
He's a lot better player. Like,
he's a way better player.
I was making a joke because they have a similar play style, but Karlaftis is better.
I know. I think circumstantially, it's just the unexciting. It's the unexciting, uninspiring edge that's probably never going to be got more than a really, really strong, solid rotational player. It's not going to be a highly productive pass rusher with a lot of pressures. And you say quick pressures. It's just what I worry about this. But this is the scenario I worry about. I worry about the Chiefs getting antsy at edge and feeling like they're just going to go up and make sure they get their kind of guy. And Spags may love him.
Okay.
But
I
don't think he's got the ceiling.
What if the Chiefs trade up to that same pick for Boy Mafe, defensive end out of Minnesota? Because I talked about this on Twitter and people got mad because on all these simulators, he's available when the Chiefs pick. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of mock drafts from your NFL Network people, from your national media, and some big boards. It's already started with Daniel Jeremiah moving him up to 26th on his big board. I think his draft process has been elite. And he's probably had the best draft process out of anybody.
Yes.
Dominated in Mobile, Alabama,
Yes.
at the Senior Bowl, has had a fantastic testing at the Combine and at the Pro Day. All intents and purposes, he's doing well in interviews. This is a guy that might climb up. So maybe the Chiefs have to trade up to get him. So they trade up to 24 for Boy Mafe, defenseman out of Minnesota. Now, how do you feel?
Better, much better, because the ceiling's higher. Now, Boy Mafe is not going to be the same day one impact as a George Karlaftis. You're going to still have to bring him along, but the ceiling is there. He's not the youngest guy in the book, but the ceiling is there. He's flexible. He's got burst. He's got power. Like, he's got all the things that you would want out of a projected kind of developmental edge rusher. So trading up for that profile makes perfect sense to me. But again, not necessarily the way the Chiefs have done things, not necessarily the way that Spags has done things, but that profile, that juice, those are the types of guys that tend to translate and tend to win more often than the opposite.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. Both Boye Mafe and George Karlaftis, they don't hit one of the Steve Spagnuolo thresholds that you can learn about in the KCSN draft guides. Maddie wrote his defensive ends trend. It's in the KCSN draft guide that's releasing on April 6th. They both don't hit one of the benchmarks for what a Steve Spagnuolo defensive end is defined as. If you are watching, listening to this, there's a link down below to purchase the KCSN draft guide, by the way, and it's going to be 225 write-ups on prospects and how they fit the Chiefs. It's going to be features like Maddie's talking about defensive ends. Craig, in all his infinite wisdom, talent, and ability, wrote something and built a model on cornerback athletic testing. And it's really, really good. There's a lot of really, really good stuff. Anyways, go click that link. It's in the description of the show that you're watching or listening to right now. And yeah, you'll get 6 months of KCSN Substack and the guide it releases like in a week and a half. The book's done, by the way, guys. If you see why we're all in a good mood, the book's done. But yeah, they both don't hit the exact same threshold, but their measurements are very, very similar. Boye Mafe has a very impressive athletic profile. He is an older prospect, though. The funny thing is, I think George Karlaftis hasn't turned 21 yet, and Boye Mafe is going to turn 24 in his rookie year.
Kent is so conflicted right now. Just
I'm not,
ultra
though.
conflicted.
So, like, I very much was like anti-old, but I think the longer, maybe it's because Patrick Mahomes is getting older. I just don't care anymore.
And Maffe's not even like you can spin it as it's no KO. Like 24, your rookie year is an old. Like that's an old draft prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 24 in your rookie year is when he's turning 24 in November. So
not great.
Okay. Yeah, we need to keep going.
Okay.
No. Before we move off, one more thing, because we spent all that time talking about edge. Chris Olave is still on the board. Chris Olave is a guy that all three of us love, like legitimately love right now. If you can trade, pick 103, the polls comp. And again, we're just exploring theories here, not saying the Chiefs are definitely going to trade up, but if you can trade, pick 103 to move up from 29 to 24. So you still have pick 30 and ensure you get Chris Olave. Assure that you get a slam dunk of a pick in a wide receiver that's going to be here beyond this year. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the details of his contract came out. Guess what? The Chiefs have a get out after this year if they want to use it. So they didn't commit long-term to MVS. They don't have anybody else on the roster that they've committed to long-term. Chris Olave can be the centerpiece, can be the thing going forward to help this team propel into the future, like our pals at Macadoodles are propelling the KC liquor store market into the future this summer in Lee's Summit, Missouri. They're going to bring elite customer service, elite prices, elite selection, all of the wonderful things that you can expect from Macadoodles is coming to Kansas City. Bringing a Macadoodles to Kansas City would be just like Chris Olave being in Kansas City. It's like the best possible outcome at that position as that part of your life. So if you're a franchisee, you need to get a hold of Roger, info@macadoodles.com, and start bringing more of them. It's just like adding a whole bunch of Chris Olaves to the Kansas City Chiefs offense. That's what Macadoodles in Kansas City or wherever you are would be for you. Guys, how do you feel about if the Chiefs were to trade up for a wide receiver, this small trade up for Olave? Is that satisfactory? I know that we're not huge on trading up for wide receiver, but is Olave good enough to trade up for?
Well, speaking of adding a bunch of Olaves to this Chiefs roster, I would just stand pat at 29 and draft the same player in Sky Moore at pick 29. Seriously, think about where those two guys win, though, and like what they do. Yeah. The biggest negative for both guys is not big frames and not particularly great at yak, their yards after the catch, despite being super athletes. They both win with their route running. They both have the deep speed to win vertically. Like I have them separated by very, very little points when I went through and graded them. If it was the difference between keeping the Pulse pick and taking Sky Moore or using the Pulse pick to go get Olave, I'm not sure I wouldn't just take Sky Moore plus the pick.
I mean, I think there's a lot of good. I mean, it's not an apples to apples either, but there's a lot of good receivers on the board still too. I know, you've got Christian Watson, you got George Pickens. Has Drake London come off the board yet?
Yes, you have Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave,
okay.
Christian Watson. That's kind of your top, and George Pickens.
A lot of good receivers. I think it's not an apples to apples comparison on all these guys. There's a lot of good receivers still. And I think this is kind of where I've come to accept I have a level of comfort with the Chiefs getting a quality receiver at standing pat at 30 if they want. So
especially with this board. Yeah.
Well, and we love wide receiver.
Olave, I think, is a my guy, if I remember correctly. I think he got a my guy in the KCSN draft guide. So.
Wide receiver board, this is about as good as it's going to get. I don't think the real draft will go this way, but maybe. So we got to get throwing this now. Buffalo Bills, Kenyon Green, interior offensive lineman out of Texas A&M. Tennessee Titans, Kaiir Elam, cornerback out of Florida. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Boye Mafe, defensive end out of Minnesota. Green Bay Packers, Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. And this is why I'm glad that you brought up Olave, because I was going to not read that. So we talked about needing to maybe move up for Olave. I'm glad we talked about Boye Mafe, talked about maybe having to move up for him. So the Chiefs are on the board now. We lost both of those guys. I can read off, anybody you guys want if you want to name a position or just what you guys are thinking at this point in time.
I mean, I like that only one safety's come off the board. Lewis Seen is still there. I know that the Chiefs added Justin Reed, but Juan Thornhill is out of contract. Steve Spagnuolo or out of contract after this year. Steve Spagnuolo loves the safeties. Lewis Seen is at a good enough player that you can run 3 safety nickel and just be fine. You'd be just fine. Keep L'Jarius Sneed and whoever's going to play across from him out on the field, out on the boundary. Those 3 guys can patrol the middle of the field and be good players. Obviously, Treylon Burks, George Pickens, those guys are still on the board as well. So you still have a selection at wide receiver that'll make you happy. The only thing that you're really missing here is defensive end. You're really kind of missing out on the defensive end crop. At this point, you're going to be taking some pretty developmental players. Not that they're bad, just the expectation should be kind of metered with the defensive ends that are left on the board.
Yeah, I agree. Like, maybe you're looking at someone like a Josh Pascal or a Sam Williams or a Drake Jackson, which I'm not even sure all 3 of those guys are even entirely Spagsy. I think a couple of them might be. Drake Jackson kind of goes. Are all 3?
Sam Williams is a clean sweep. Drake Jackson was light at the combine, but at his pro day, he had
like
passed the threshold. And Pascal's not, because oddly enough, you would never know by looking at him. Short arms, would have never guessed. So
I still could see them making a little bit of exception on Pascal, but I think that's the tier of guys. I bet one of them's there at 50. And so I would, so you probably go grab one of those guys at 50. I was talking about this to these guys earlier. I'd go grab Lewis Seen. I'd start my draft with Lewis Seen and a receiver. Like, you know what, honestly, you know what I'd do? I'd go Georgia back to back. I'd go Lewis Seen. I'd go George Pickens. I mean, and you can pick which one you want to be the face of your draft.
Let me make my case against that. The Chiefs don't throw to X wide receivers on the outside. They don't do it. What do we know, though? What do we know about Chiefs far? A lot of connection to Laviska Shenault. A lot of connection to Laviska Shenault.
No.
You know who's a better Laviska Shenault? Treylon Burks. He's a better version of Shenault. I mean, he's a better version of him. You already know there's a connection. There's the chance. He's good at making contested catches. He can do the X stuff when given the opportunity. And while he gets to the point of doing that, if you have to manufacture some stuff for him or put him in different spots, like, he makes a lot of sense. I don't love him as a player, but I see the upside. I know why he makes sense. So that would be my case for Burks as the wide receiver you're looking at.
And we did say this. I think we've said this on air. Tyreek Hill's exit makes Treylon Burks make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So from a schematic perspective, some of the stuff, it's weird. Some of the stuff you do with Tyreek Hill, you can do with Treylon Burks, even though it's a little different. But manufactured touches, make him the under route with the clear outs, that kind of stuff. You can put.
We can keep discussing it, but are we good with, like, does Burks make sense, or does anybody want to pound the table for Pickens?
Let's go with Treylon Burks. It's fine.
Okay. I'm not going to be mad at either. How about that? I think I like Pickens better, but I think your point about Burks just makes a lot more sense in the Chiefs offense, the way that they operate.
Pickens the prospect is much higher regarded in the KCSN draft guide. I think Burks probably makes more sense for this football team.
I am completely on board with Lewis Seen and going defensive end later. Do we want to give any thought to Ojabo and getting that top talent at defensive end, especially knowing that you might be able to double up with a lower ceiling guy like a Pascal? Or even a Cameron Thomas out of San Diego State later on, like a guy that can play the run, is ready early on. Just, do we want to give any thought to that before we take Seen?
I mean, I'm giving thought to that. I'm giving a lot of thought to that. I'm giving a lot of thought to Travis Jones to play on the interior.
I almost threw Travis Jones out earlier too. Like, there's some good football players. Here's the thing. This is tricky because one of the guys we're talking about might be there at 50. Ojabo, do we think Ojabo's there at 50?
No.
I think it's a long way to go without Mafe being available.
Correct.
Like, that's my concern. And especially, this is where I'm cheating a tiny, tiny bit. We're using a simulator here. So I don't think Drake Jackson's is respected in the simulator the same way I think the NFL is going to love his upside. So that one, I think he's definitely going to be there later. Whereas in the real world, he might be competing with Ojabo to go. I'm scrolling through the simulator. The next edge is Arnold Ebiketie, which we somehow haven't mentioned yet. But, like, he's another guy. Like,
he's in play too.
I think Ojabo would be gone by 50.
I think so too. I think Ebiketie will be gone by 50 as well. I
Do you
think
think
the
the Chiefs
hype
are
on
in
him
on
is.
Ebiketie?
I think they should be.
He showed up
He's-
even lighter to his pro day than he was at
I
the
know.
combine, which was already on the bottom edge of Spag's weight
was.
thresholds. He would only be the second player or the third player ever to be below 260. He would only be the second player besides Mike Dana to be below 250.
You know what?
Yeah.
Let's go Ojabo.
Yeah.
Let's go Ojabo. Look, this team has way too
Take the
much
talent.
capital. They can go do something crazy. Go get David Ojabo. Why
Sell
not?
somebody.
YOLO.
Okay, while we late, what I'm not going to read all the picks off that go on from now. We're going to finish on the Chiefs draft.
No.
But you guys should sell everybody on David Ojabo in the first round, despite the fact that he's going to miss a year while I go through 800 trade offers.
Well, and he is. I mean, he's gonna miss a year, and it's not like who's the edge from last year at Vanderbilt?
Deo.
Odeyingbo.
So Deo Odeyingbo, he tore his Achilles a couple months earlier than Dave Ojabo did. The timing for Ojabo is this is a true red shirt. I don't think you're getting a single thing out of Dave Ojabo in year one, which is going to make his stock very fascinating. You could see a team maybe with a lot of draft capital. Take an investment on him. It's just a matter of which team's going to blink first because you are basically getting a red shirt. And so that's what's going to be interesting about the Dave Ojabo situation because he's a very good talent. He's a top 20 talent. And the arrow's only pointing up. You think about, I think we talked about this very early in the process. You think about Odafe Owa last year, some similarities there, arrow only pointing up, best football ahead of him kind of statements about his upside, his athletic ability. I think it's the same with Ojabo. It's the same thing. The arrow is pointing up. It's just a shame with the Achilles.
I think looking at him, he's a 22-year-old player. Doesn't have a whole lot of snaps on him. Kind of had to contend with a lot of dudes in that Michigan room. Like, I mean, the entire time he's been there, there's been a ton of quality rushers. So he finally gets his shot. Very raw, but it's traits. It's explosion. It's, bend. It's all those things that we've talked about that we're looking for high ceiling rushers. Now, the thing with Ojabo and the reason why he would fall on top of the injury, his instincts aren't great. He doesn't play the run great. We know that defensive coordinators care about that stuff. You want to tell me that David Ojabo gets to spend a year in the room with, Joe Cullen, Frank Clark, Mike Dana, all these guys that are going to help him prepare, help him identify stuff. He's going to be sitting in the film room working through all that stuff while rehabbing, and then he gets a full NFL offseason to put together some more power and stuff like that, knowing full well you're not getting anything out of him. Year one, the ceiling is high, and you got a 23-year-old player who then at that point has 3 years of contract control, a fourth with a fifth-year option there. You've given yourself a little bit of runway on that player, and you've gotten to kind of get him to do some of the things the way that you want them to do inside the film room, inside the room. It makes a ton of sense to me. It really does. I would gamble that, but I don't know if the Chiefs are in a defensive in now sort of mode. This does not fix that at all.
But where you can fix it, and I love how you preface this with everything he has to do. You can come back right now and take a defensive end with one of your 2 round 2 picks. I mean, the Chiefs need multiple. You can go get some veterans, but if you want somebody else, I mean, Josh Pascal still on the board. We talked about him a little bit already, but you want to talk about getting a guy in the building. It's another older prospect, has a ton of experience, knows how to play the run incredibly well. Like, not only is he good at it, he knows how to do it. Kingsley Enagbare, not a great tester, but then another bigger, longer guy that can play the run really well. Drake Jackson's available. Sam Williams is later. It's an off-field thing there. We don't need to go into that on a podcast, but there's an off-field thing, but he's a perfect Spags guy. But that's really about it at defensive end. We mentioned Travis Jones earlier, still on the board here. Travis Jones still here at pick 50. It seems a little late, but at the same time, Devontae Wyatt, Logan Hall, Perion Winfrey, guys that have a little bit more juice as pass rushers, as interior rushers come off the board before him. So he's a guy that this seems about the back end of his range, but possible.
This is the back end of his range, and I'd do it right now.
Okay,
we're talking about all these guys.
The only other person I want to throw in there, because I don't like the rest of it, if you want a corner that's not bad, this is your last chance, and it's Tariq Woolen, who's also not ready right now. It's a long developmental curve, but after this, the corner drop-off is real. Like, you're looking
at Travis Jones.
Okay, I'm in. I'm doing that.
Pick Travis Jones.
Was PJ still there?
Was who?
Petre from Baylor?
No,
Was-
the
Ooh,
safeties
he's
were
gone.
not
Okay.
a fun option.
Then it's Travis Jones. Yep.
And so if you take Travis Jones, are you guys, I would presume we are now looking at moving on from Derek Nottie after 1 year. You have Travis Jones to play your nose tackle right away. Okay. Nobody can hear this, I hope. I'm literally getting a trade phone call in this mock draft simulator every single pick I go through right now, and all it is constant phone ringing. The Chiefs are back on the clock at 62. Okay. What position do you want me to look at right now? Because the whole world, you want edge.
Yeah. See what's up at edge.
Same guys. All the same guys are still there at edge. So that's Pascal, Ed Nagbari, Sam Williams, Drake Jackson is there. Corner, you lost Woolen. You have DeAndre Kendrick, Mario Goodrich. I don't like the corner room. I'm vetoing that. Nick Cross at safety, if you still want to talk about that. Offensive tackle room. Don't love the value for the offensive tackles. There's some fine players, but not loving the value. Tight end. No tight ends off the board yet either.
Oh. So you've still got your choice. You've got your Ruckerts. You've got your
Dolchich.
You got Trey McBride, who's most people's tight end one. I think he's like the most ho-hum average tight end, but he could be really good. He can block right away. Jeremy Ruckert is similar, but I think there's a little bit more upside to his athletic profile. Then there's my personal favorite is Greg Dulcich out of UCLA because he's the best receiver. He's probably not your best blocker, but you want to bet on upside of a guy becoming a stud tight end. He'd be the way I would lean out of kind of your top three guys there. If you want to go tight end.
I think here's my proposal. Here's my thought. Well, what if we go to 62? We take an edge. Make sure you get your edge. You could package 41. You could package 94 and 121 and get up all the way to like 66 and see or get up to pick 72 and see what tight ends are available there.
Okay, I'm going to take an edge and start running down and see what happens. I'm taking Josh Pascal. He's, plays similar.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to stop around pick 72 right now. I paused it, but I'm not even going to look who's there. If no tight ends are off the board, do you just keep letting it ride? Or do you go up to get your choice? Or do you wait till the run maybe starts?
I wait till the run starts.
Okay, because Trey McBride did go off. Okay. He went off at 6. He's the only one. So he's off the board. You are now looking at, we're at pick 72, and it's all the same tight ends are left. If you're hunting a tight end, cornerback room, not great. We went edge. Offensive tackle, you have Abraham Lucas. There's guys.
I like Abe Lucas.
What is Nick Cross gone, you said?
No, he is still on the board.
I'd think about trading up for him.
Trade up for Nick Cross. Okay.
I don't know how you feel about moving up for a safety, but I don't hate that one either.
I think that's where it gets a little dicier is moving up for a safety, but just because they are going to be a part-time player.
I'd say let's just let it ride.
Okay.
Let's let it ride after the Chiefs.
We are talking about some options that we make, and this is great. The phone ringing is just out of control. I wish I could now turn off that they can offer me trades for this. I mean, it was fun for a minute.
I would think about trading up for tight end though. Like I would think long and hard about that one. And I know that sounds maybe a little counterintuitive to some people, but
they have a ton of them. We get it, but
they don't have a ton of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
they have Travis Kelce and an aging Travis Kelce who, I mean, elite player, but how long is he going to be elite? Blake Bell, replaceable.
Greg Dulcich went off the board. So that one stings. The Packers took him 2 picks before the Chiefs. That's the way I would have leaned. Jeremy Ruckert's available. Cade Otton out of tight out of Washington. A lot of people love his blocking ability. It's like if you were purposely chasing a tight end, you go for Ruckert here. If you were just trying to catch a value, I think Ruckert's a fine value here. I just think Greg Dulcich would have been the guy I would have leaned towards. So do you guys like Ruckert here?
What about
Nick Cross is still available?
What about corner?
You were open to trading up for Nick Cross. You just don't want to take him? Martin Emerson, Joshua Jobe, Jalen Watson.
Okay. Take Nick. I think you take Nick Cross here.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it mostly because
Nick Cross is safety out of Maryland.
We have hit the 50-minute mark, so I am trying to make sure we get through the rest of this draft at this point. We're at the polls pick now.
Mm-hmm.
Go cornerback.
Zion McCollum.
Or Martin Emerson.
Martin Emerson's off the board. Jalen Watson is available. I'm assuming. Oh, there's Zion McCollum. He's way down here. Yeah, we can take him. He's an athletic project,
he's
right?
way down there. I just think that teams are going to gamble on that athletic profile.
I'm with you.
He's one of those dudes. He's the only corner that ran any agility drills at the combine. Everybody else passed. He stepped up and ran them and had a 6.48 3-cone. My man is fluid, and he runs a 4.33 40. He's got 39.5-inch verts. He's got good size. About his only knock, 30 3/4-inch arms. Like, that's about it. But he more than makes up with it, with explosion and things like that. You want to take a gamble on an athletic dude, go get the kid out of Sam Houston State.
Yeah, I'm on board. You had to take an athletic swing at tackle. I think he is completely fine taking that shot. We are now up at pick 121. I went and checked out the offensive tackles. Max Mitchell out of Louisiana, Zach Tom out of Wake Forest. I know he's got some fans out there in certain circles. Love the value,
I'll go Max Mitchell. I like Max Mitchell a lot.
Okay.
I think that's a good guy. I mean, he's a right tackle too. So this is a guy that could be competitive in the right tackle tackle position. He could push Andrew Wiley.
The best athletic tight end of all time, Jelani Woods.
Ooh.
Now,
okay.
I'm doing Max Mitchell because we've done a lot of Jelani Woods talk, and there's a little bit of a gap between being the best testing tight end ever and being like the most athletic ever. But
yeah, Max Mitchell tackle out of Louisiana, I think is the move.
Yes, that is the route we went. We are now up again, and Jelani Woods is off the board. Don't love the value of the tight end room.
Have we still not gone tight end?
We have not. I don't think the value's there now because I don't think the Chiefs are trying to add a depth tight end. I think you're making that move in round 2. The way we saw it play out, you can't really wait until the end of round 3. It gets too dicey. If you want that tight end, it's going to be a game changer. If you're not just trying to add a tight end 3 or 4, which the Chiefs have plenty of, if you're trying to get that future starting tight end, round 2. I mean, that's where you're looking. Maybe you get lucky in round 3, but round 2.
Let's look wide receiver. Chase Allen in round 7 now. That's what
I was already there, Gregory. And we have Justin Ross, who tested abysmal. That's scary. Bo Melton, another slot type with Treylon Burks. I don't love it, but he's a good returner. Romeo Doubs is actually a great comp for MVS. It's a very similar player, a lot down to their hands on the vertical plane. It is Tyquan Thornton, burner out of Baylor's there. I don't think that's realistic. I think that somebody will take that speed
I think he'll
earlier.
be gone by then, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of what you're looking at. I was mostly looking for an outside guy, and unless you're taking Justin Ross here with this pick, which this is probably the Chiefs' last chance to take him. He gives you that X receiver if you were chasing it still. Don't love the options there, but if you guys do, by all means.
Go Justin Ross. That's fine.
Let's do it.
I like him enough. I know he didn't test great, but I still think there's a lot of ability there. And,
or Jack Jones to play in the slot and push Snead outside.
Nah, Jack Jones did not. Jack Jones is a little smaller than we thought and a lot slower than we thought. So, I think that Justin Ross is the gamble there.
Yeah, no, we did it. And so now we got to wait it out so we get to the round 7. I was just kind of looking at Kobe Bryant was also available. I just didn't want to think. I didn't think that was realistic.
Kobe tested well.
I do. Yeah, I don't think Kobe Bryant's realistic. And sometimes when we do this stuff, we try to be a little bit realistic. I think Travis Jones at 50 is actually pretty realistic. One thing we've been doing a lot over the last couple of years, we play the -3 role when we do our mock drafts. You take the 3 guys that are sitting at the very top of whatever simulator you're using and just knock them off, because there's the 3 highest valued players, because we'll get a bunch of mock drafts. It'll be like, give me the job at Brett Veach, and it's just because they got a guy that just the algorithm, Daxton Hill in round 7. It's the algorithm was being dumb that day. So
I don't know if we've said it yet. We're using the Draft Network's mock draft simulator. So shout out to the Draft Network. Guys, wonderful. I love this thing, but I don't need trade offers in round 7. I don't need the phone ringing asking me for trade offers in round 7. Here's my one thing. I'm looking at our draft. Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Do we think that Justin Ross, do we think that abysmal testing is still just him recovering from the injury? Is he pushing?
I think he's probably slower than he was as a dominant freshman or sophomore or whatever it was.
Yeah,
I don't know. You hope that the farther away from the injury gets, better things happen for him. I think it's a worthy flyer in the mid rounds, especially with as many picks as we're making right now.
looking at our draft, our cornerback room is scary. We added a complete project from Sam Houston State, and that is all we have done for the corner room. I'm not saying it's unrealistic, but you really wanted to go get Stephon Gilmore or even James Bradbury. If this is what
You
you're coming
better.
away with.
They have
Yes.
to, regardless of what they do. They have
But
to.
I mean, but you could have insulated better from the draft than just having McCollum, who I don't
Sure.
mind as a player, but it's a complete developmental guy stepping huge up in competition, and like there's not a lot of guys left on the cornerback room right now.
Well,
I'm
now that
gonna
it's round 7, it's the prime time to be taking Darian Kendrick or Roger McCreary, right?
Well,
Because
similar.
everybody's knocking them because of their short arms and terrible testing, right?
I took Jermaine Waller, who also tested pretty poorly
Yeah, he
and
did-
has
he did test
inside
poorly.
outside experience, a lot of man coverage.
Yes.
That was our first round 7 pick. Give me a position and I'll take a player.
Go grab Chase Allen at one of your tight end spots.
We're really
Go
gonna
grab
draft
Chase Allen.
He is okay. We drafted another tight end 4-5.
Yeah,
It's
and,
okay.
you just throw another number
fine.
at it.
Yeah, we're good.
Inline guy. Maybe he can be a better inline guy than Blake Bell in 2023. That's what
Okay.
I'm looking at.
What position do you want, Craig? Give me a position.
Punter.
drafted.
Let's draft a punter.
I think
Let's
they
go
need
ahead.
it.
I
No
think
disrespect, Tucker, but your guy Tommy, not clutch.
go
not
grab a
clutch.
running back. Who's there at the running back position?
Is Pacheco's gone? Is Ty Chandler there?
Ty Chandler is there. Pacheco's is gone. Pacheco is gone. Okay.
I
Ty
don't think
Chandler,
Ty Chandler-
running back out of North Carolina.
Let's
I
do
don't
it.
think he's there.
Okay.
I
My
don't-
guy, Kevin Harris out of South Carolina, but he makes no sense with Ronald Jones because they're the same
What
player.
about Abram Smith? He's a
Uh,
special teams out of Baylor, the run back out of Baylor's linebacker backgrounds, got some special teams ability.
Off the board.
Off the
Um,
board. He earned it.
What about Max Borghi, the discount Christian McCaffrey coming from Washington State? He's a running back. Oh no, I don't like anybody there. Nothing jumps out. But we're arguing about our last 7th round pick here. Like, it's a 7th round pick. Do whatever you want with this pick. I can take Matt Ariza, the 100th overall player, a punter out of
Yes!
or San Diego State.
He'll be gone
Yes.
way before this, but take him.
Done. You got a clutch punter
Matt
now.
Araiza, he's not ranked in the draft guide because we don't know how to rank punters.
Hey.
Craig does. Craig's like, yeah, we do. We'll be gone before the 7th round pick, but we're gonna pick.
Yes,
right
he
away.
will.
All right, I'm
He
gonna
might be a
read
day
off.
2 guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna read off all the picks so everybody knows. I know this is not the most engaging thing, but this is what we came away with the Chiefs. Pick 29, Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas. Kind of makes a lot more sense without Tyreek Hill. Does a lot of the same stuff despite being like twice the size. Pick 30, defensive end out of Michigan, David Ajabo. Going to miss the majority of his first year, but you're probably getting the highest upside rusher out of the entire draft, and you got him at pick 30. Pick 50, Travis Jones, defensive tackle out of UConn. Pick 62, Josh Paschal, edge out of Kentucky. Here's our defensive end that can play year 1. Doesn't have the same upside, but he can play early. Nick Cross, safety out of Maryland, is the pick at 94. Arguably the most athletic player in the entire draft class. Big, downhill, hard-hitting safety. Perfect to be your safety 3 with Juan Thornhill and Justin Reed. Zion McCollum, our big cornerback addition out of Sam Houston State. He's the number 1 corner of all time in CBAT, right, Greg?
No, not
30.
quite.
Number 3?
He's very close. He's
Okay,
very
yeah,
close. He's damn near
By
the
the
top.
guide.
Yes.
He's
By
right
the
up there.
guy.
Max
Big
Mitchell,
bio.
offensive tackle out of Louisiana, Louisiana Lafayette. Justin Ross, wide receiver out of Clemson. Round 7 picks. Jermaine Waller, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. Chase Allen, tight end, I think, out of Iowa State. And then Matt Araiza, a punter out of San Diego State. So the Chiefs can have
Love it.
some clutch punting if it comes to that.
Championship.
Love it. He's not the most clutch punter in the world. He's just got a giant leg.
Hey, if you liked this mock draft, if you like what's going on KC Sports Network, all the people watching right now, hit the subscribe button to the KCSN YouTube channel. That'd be wonderful. Also, the KCSN draft guide, all kinds of draft content coming to you. Releases April 6th. There's a link in the bio, draftguide.gumroad.com/KCSN22. That is going to do it for the KC Laboratory. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.